Hey everyone, welcome to X Connect. This is the second episode with our senior from Webster Hall, Alex Johnson. Alex, I'm so glad to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Tell me about yourself. Where did you grow up and what do you remember most?
Okay, I grew up in a town in Phoenix, Arizona called Scottsdale. I have pretty fond memories of my childhood, but something I distinctly remember is always feeling like I was never able to hang out with my friends because of where I lived. My parents bought a house in a neighborhood mostly populated by older people, so I didn't really have kids my age around. I also went to a school 20 minutes away, like my middle school and my high school before I came to Exeter. All my friends were around the city, and if I ever wanted to hang out with them, it was a 20-minute commute. And so I spent a lot of my childhood just hanging out in my house alone, reading, doing creative things, playing sports.
Yeah. Phoenix is a very big city. It's the biggest city in Arizona. Was there ever like, oh, I'm in a community with older people, but my friend does live 10 minutes away? Or tell me more about that. Was it just your own neighborhood where you felt isolated, or did your friends really live a long drive away?
It was mainly just my neighborhood. I lived in northern Scottsdale. Northern Scottsdale is where people went to retire. Southern Scottsdale is where people live with their families. And so all the kids from my middle school, most of them lived in Southern Scottsdale. And then when I got to high school, I started hanging out with people, started getting to know people. They were telling me about their childhoods in Southern Scottsdale, in towns like Paradise Valley or Arcadia, and how they were able to like just bike to their friend's house, walk to their friend's house, walk to the country club, hang out with their friends, like walk to school, all these things. And that's an experience I was never able to have, which I think is like, I'm not sure it was a reason I came to boarding school, but I think it's a reason boarding school looked so appealing to me, because I knew that I would never have to worry about planning to hang out with my friends, going out of my way to hang out with my friends. Boarding school is an environment where you live with your friends.
So you weren't able to see your friends. You're growing up in Arizona, though. Were you born and raised in Arizona, or did you move there?
No, I was born and raised.
Okay, so that's something very distinct. You just didn't like it your entire childhood.
Yeah, no, I hated it. Now, like, every break, I just can't wait to come back to Exeter. And once I graduate, no, I don't really intend on going back.
You were interested in boarding school because of this lack of community, and you wanted more of that, right? You wanted to be immersed in that community. But how did you hear about boarding school? Did you have a family member? I mean, 99% of everyone goes to their local high school, so
Yeah.
that's still very rare.
All right, so there's actually an interesting story there. One time, so I was a new upper. I came in 11th grade. So I had 2 years of high school in Arizona. I really didn't take advantage of my first 2 years of high school the way I wished I would, both academically and socially. And so I really only had, like, I feel like at Exeter, I have hundreds of friends. I could go hang out with anybody. But in Arizona, I had like 4 people I could hang out with. In my 2 years of high school, I made like 4 friends. And so one time, I was having a sleepover with one of those friends, my buddy Dylan. And it was just me, him. We were home alone. And so I was texting everybody I knew, both boys and girls, being like, yo, like, we've got this open crib, pull up.
Yeah.
It's going to be lit. It was early sophomore year, so none of our peers could drive. All the people I texted just couldn't show up. I remember getting in my own head about it a lot, getting super anxious. And I woke up that next morning being like, I got to get out of here. Like, I can't believe I just invited so many people to come hang out with me and my friend in his vacant home, no parents, and none of them said yes. I've got to be doing something wrong, and I've got to reset. The idea of boarding school popped into my head, and I brought the idea to my parents. My parents were initially like, hell no, we're not letting that happen. You're not going to boarding school. And I basically plead my case. I was like, I want better socials, I want better academics, I want better extracurricular stuff. I looked up good boarding schools to coast. And there's this school called EF Academy that I brought to my parents. I was like, this is the one. But it was really just the first one that came up on Google. My parents were like, all right, are you still enthusiastic about the idea of boarding school? And at the time, I wasn't. Like, I had grown out of the idea of wanting to reset. But I'm a really stubborn person. So I was like, yeah, I still want to go to boarding school. They're like, all right, we're only paying for boarding school if you apply on your own and get into a top 5 American high school. So I looked at the rankings. At the time, Exeter was number 1. I wasn't the most motivated student. I didn't want to fill out more than one application. So I put all my eggs in the Exeter basket, and very fortunately was accepted.
You put all your eggs just in that one basket of the pinnacle of all the high schools.
Yeah, only applied to number 1. Because I was like, if I don't get in, I'll just stay in Arizona. I'll try to take advantage of my high school opportunities in Arizona.
This brings up multiple questions. First, I'm like, okay, are you going to look at a school in California, Colorado, or Oregon closer to you in Arizona?
Yeah.
And then you say you can only apply to the top 5 schools. And then you say you only apply to the top one. Was that going through your mind at that point? Like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I don't care. Why didn't you apply to maybe Hotchkiss, Lawrenceville, Andover?
I just wanted to prove to my parents, my friends, and myself that I could get in. Because I looked at the acceptance rate, it was like sub 10. They weren't terrible. I'm a smart guy, but they weren't like, so everyone was telling me they didn't think I was going to get in. The only reason my parents let me apply is because they didn't think I was going to get in. They're like, all right, we don't want to be bad parents. We'll let him apply. He's not going to get in. But we let him apply, he doesn't get in. We don't lose our son, and he doesn't hate us. They're thinking, if we let him apply. And so,
They messed up.
yeah, and so I really wanted to prove everybody wrong. If I didn't get in, that would have sucked. And if I did get in, it was an opportunity to prove to myself that I am capable of doing cool things. That's what was going through my head.
So, Alex, you were a sophomore at your high school in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So did you repeat sophomore year, or did you come here as an upper?
No, I came here just as an upper.
Last year was your first year.
Last year was my first year,
Wow.
yeah.
I actually thought you had your roots deep in the school. You were so social, knew everybody.
Yeah. I didn't really take advantage of anything at my old high school. I feel like I am capable of so much, and I didn't really appreciate that at my old school. I didn't put myself out there. I didn't dedicate myself to any extracurricular opportunities. I didn't try and do cool things like leadership-wise. More than anything, I wasn't focusing on academics. When I got to Exeter, I was extremely scared by this new and daunting environment of all these people who have been here for 2 years, the most competitive high school in the world. Everyone knows what they were doing. I just knew I can't let it happen again. Like, I can't be a bum for 2 more years. I just moved across the country so that I'm not a bum, and I can't be a bum. And so, although it was uncomfortable, I really pushed myself to be as extroverted, as social, as much of a leader as I could be, because I knew what it felt like to not do those things for 2 years, and I wasn't going to let that happen again.
Tell me about that. Have you always been extroverted, or you said you were having to push yourself to be more extroverted and speak to more people when you came here?
Yeah, I've always been a pretty extroverted guy, but I've always been scared of people who I thought to be better than me in some way. Whether that be like, going to a volleyball open gym and these people are better at volleyball than me, or I'm put in a classroom and I'm surrounded by people that are smarter than me, I'm immediately scared of them. So coming to Exeter, I'm surrounded by people who are better acquainted than I was. And that was very scary because these people know what they're doing. And more than anything, I'm from Arizona and I didn't know anybody here. There have been opportunities where I've done summer camps, programs and stuff, where I've gone into it with a friend or two. And it's been extremely easy to be extroverted because I have somebody to bounce off of. But coming to Exeter, I was truly all alone, placed in a dorm full of 60-something guys I had never met before, on a campus with thousands of people I had never met before, in a state I had never even been to. It was extremely scary, extremely uncomfortable, but I knew I am extroverted by nature. And so despite the uncomfortability of pushing myself to be social in an unfamiliar environment around people who have no idea who I am, I knew if I didn't try to make friends and do cool things, I would be holding myself back.
I find that super interesting, forcing yourself to be in this environment where you know no one in a fully different state. I'm sure you never thought you'd be living in New Hampshire. It's interesting that kind of pushed you over the edge to talk with more people and shape you a little bit more to the person you are today. So you've been here for 2 years. You were in Arizona for 2. How do those compare when you're looking back?
Exeter is so much more than what I imagined it to be. I came here, did my research, watched YouTube videos, read articles. It was like, this place is grueling. Like, you send your child here, they'll get into a good college, they'll be set for life, but it will not be enjoyable. Like, your kid will have their nose in the books for multiple hours every night until they graduate, all these things. And it ended up being so much more than that because I made amazing friends immediately. And I am closer to them than I have ever been to anyone in my life. So that immediately surprised me. Something I found to be different. My old school in Arizona was an all-boys Jesuit high school, and it was connected to a Catholic middle school right across the street. A lot of kids from that Catholic middle school went to my all-boys Jesuit high school, and also hundreds of people from around the state.
So you were at an all-boys school?
I was in all-boys school, yeah. And it always just felt like I was never able to get opportunities. Part of it was that I wasn't really dedicated or present on campus a whole lot, but That's not to say I didn't try or reach out to people trying to get opportunities. It always felt like those opportunities went to people who had connections, the people who were friends with the people on boards, the people who were friends with the principals, the people who knew the principals' kids or the teachers' kids. Those are the people who positions went to. And I hated it. I literally came into Exeter with a couple of extracurriculars, none of them being at my school, because I seriously could not get any positions because they were going to different kids. But at Exeter, if you are the most qualified, if you are the most passionate, if you are the most interested in a position, it is not nepotism. You will get the position if it is something you are passionate about, if it is something you deserve. So that's something I like so much more, my 2 years at Exeter versus my 2 years in Arizona. If I want to do something and I'm dedicated to doing something, I can do it. Whereas at my old school, there are so many things I really wanted to do. I really wanted to be on Stuco. I applied twice and I didn't get it either time. Whereas all the kids connected to the person who made the Stuco decisions, they all got it. And I was like, all right, something's up. Whereas here, I am on Stuco. And it's because I was the most impassioned person in the dorm rep election. I have gained respect in Stuco because I have, started initiatives. I have sparked discourse. I have
Gotten us scarves.
I got you guys all scarves. I want to do something and I get it done. And that's something I really appreciate about Exeter.
Alex, tell me, who were your biggest influences growing up?
I think one of my bigger influences is my brother. He goes to Notre Dame. He's older than me, and he's always been kind of awkward. Like he's a tall, lanky, unathletic guy, kind of awkward, kind of nerdy. He always looks like he doesn't really know what he's doing, but he always figures it out. He's super dedicated to what he does, and he always gets it done. And I always looked up to him because you look at this kid, and you think, yeah, like whatever he's about to do, it's not going to work. Just because of how awkward he is or however bad he is at whatever he's about to do. But he's just so true to that. He gets it done. And I was like, wow, that's going to sound corny, but it's all about what's inside of you. You know what I mean? Well, I'm watching it happen with my brother. And that always inspired me because it taught me that as long as I feel like I can make something happen, and as long as I'm true to that inner belief, something will happen.
I was going to ask you, why did you not follow your brother's footsteps, as he was a big influence to you in high school? Like maybe you would stay on the same path that your brother already did. He was an influence to you, whatever. But now to hear you are following his footsteps in a way. He went to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
You're going to Notre Dame, for everyone who doesn't know. Congratulations, by the way,
Thank you, Craig.
recently admitted. So what are you going to study there?
All right, so at Notre Dame, I'm going to do undergraduate architecture. I'm going to get my bachelor's in architecture. Usually you do 4 years of architecture school and then 2 years of architecture school somewhere else to get your professional degree. But Notre Dame architecture just has a 5-year program where you get it all at the same time. I will graduate a professional architect, and I'm going to minor in either political science or economics or like English or philosophy so that I can go into law school. Although architecture and law might seem like a relatively arbitrary combo, your undergraduate degree doesn't really matter for law school as long as you have a degree and as long as you're prepared for law school as far as grades and your LSAT score goes. And Notre Dame's architecture program is all classical. So everything is hand-drawn, everything is watercolored, it's all on paper, nothing is computerized. And I'm an extremely creative person. My creativity is the thing about me I value the most. I feared that if I went to college and studied something like finance or some other subject where I am not really pushed to be creative, I would lose that creative part of me for the rest of my life. But doing 5 years of a degree that is solely relied on your creative potential, I feel like it will establish me as a creative person for the rest of my life.
And where do you think that fear comes from? That fear of losing your creative side?
I think it just comes from seeing all the people, looking at the generation in front of us and the generation in front of them. All these people are very grudgingly going through their lives just so they can get a nice paycheck, just going into professions that they know they'll be good at versus things they like to do. I don't want to grow up and be that way. I want to enjoy my future. I want to be rich, but I want to enjoy my life while I am rich. And I feel like I won't be able to do so unless I have a creative force guiding me.
So do you see yourself building these skyscrapers in New York, or do you see yourself building these more Louis Kahn, more appreciated for their craftsmanship?
I'm more focused on ancient architecture, the stuff the Romans built, the preservation of it. I think in our world today, a lot of corporations are finding it easier to just demolish historical architecture as opposed to renovate them. But I think that's kind of silly because I don't like the way modern architecture looks. This room we're in right now, I think is beautiful. This is the best building on campus. You got a spiral staircase, some beautiful chairs, the second story, the balcony, it's beautiful.
Marble all around.
It's amazing. And this is the kind of look I want to surround myself with in my future. I want my house to look this way. I want to live in places like this. The only way that is possible is through preserving history through architecture. That's what I will be focused on in my studies at Notre Dame. Looking into the past, visiting Rome, touring these places that still have a large degree of classical architecture, taking that knowledge to the Americas, North America, the United States, to try and reestablish classical spaces around the country.
Yeah, I love that. So you went to Catholic school, then you went to a Jesuit all-boys school, and now you're going to Notre Dame.
This is true.
I think Jesuit schools are great. I love Notre Dame. Go Irish. How long have you known you've wanted to go to Notre Dame? Is this something that's been planted in your mind since going to Jesuit school or even before that?
My brother was a senior in high school when I was a freshman in high school, and we went to the same high school. I knew nothing about college. Like, I didn't even know what Harvard was. My brother applied to Notre Dame early, and he applied a few other places early. He got into Georgetown, by the way. So my brother got into Notre Dame, and it was his dream school, and he committed immediately. And then I was like, all right, that's mine too. That's when I decided Notre Dame was going to be my dream school.
That's great. I feel like Notre Dame is the perfect mix of academics, but also the sports, like the football, the basketball. It's a great culture. You're not going to just go there for 4 years. You're going to be there for life. As one of the famous Notre Dame coaches said, what has Notre Dame meant to you getting in after watching your brother get in, having these Jesuit ties? How does that feel now that you're in?
Yeah, it feels like it all worked out because, like, when I was in Arizona, okay, not only was it my dream school, it is everybody's dream school at the high school I went to. A lot of kids to Notre Dame, and it's not because my old school is really good, it's because hundreds of kids apply. And so multiple kids get in when you have that large of a pool applying. But it's everyone's dream school. And so unless you were in the top 10% of the class, you were kind of shafted. Because why would they even look at your application if you're not the top 10% of the class? And although my grades weren't terrible, I was not the top 10% of the class. And Notre Dame being my dream school and knowing that if I stayed in Arizona, it would not have happened, really pushed me to excel at Exeter. Actually, getting into Notre Dame was one of the bigger reasons I even committed to Exeter. But I came to Exeter and I was like, all right, I have to do what I could not have done in Arizona. I really locked in on my grades, locked in on my test scores, locked in on my extracurriculars, and I eventually did get into Notre Dame. And so it feels like I'm so appreciative of this opportunity to reset and to really hone in on what I know I'm capable of. Although I was capable of, I did not capitalize on at my old school, and to focus on that when I came to Exeter and then get into Notre Dame and finally reach my goal. This is such an amazing thing, especially because I watched my brother get into Notre Dame after he put in all that work, all that effort, and it all worked out for him. It really irked me that because I was not putting in the same amount of effort, I would not be able to get my dream the way he did. And so that really pushed me to come to Exeter and match his effort and eventually get into Notre Dame.
Alex, this has been a great conversation so far. We're coming up on the end, but I have a few more questions for you.
I'm ready.
What is something that you're passionate about right now?
Something I'm passionate about right now. Am I allowed to say Minecraft?
What about Minecraft? You playing with your friends? You playing with Towner?
Initially, it was playing with my boys, but my boys low-key haven't been hopping on. So it's just really been me.
Dang, what are you building in Minecraft?
I just built a couple farms so I could get a bunch of materials so that I can start building a huge classical library.
We gotta play. We gotta play sometime.
You wanna have fun? I'm down. Well, it's something I appreciate Minecraft is it allows me to be creative on a large scale. Although, it's all in the screen, I'm allowed to build huge buildings, which I obviously can't do right now. I'm only 18. It's so tranquil. It's just me and my world and my buildings. I'm able to relax and just focus on being creative.
That's great. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
10 years
How
from
old are you
now.
now? You're 18, right?
I'm 18, yeah.
You're gonna be 28.
So 10 years
Let's
from
say
now.
you graduate at 23 from Notre Dame Architecture School, right?
That's correct.
So you're 5 years out of Notre Dame.
Then I'll do 3 years at law school, whatever law school it may be. I love school, bro. I love school so much. If I could go from architecture school to law school to med school, I would. Because I just love school. That's one of the reasons I want to pursue law. I love learning. I don't mind being in school for 8 years. Hopefully I'll go to an Ivy League for my law school degree, Harvard, Yale, or Columbia, ideally, because Columbia is in New York City. So that's where I'm hoping, but that's a while away. So I will graduate 8 years from now. Hopefully 10 years from now, I will be able to use my bachelor's in architecture and my law degree to inform my career. I hope to be a private equity lawyer or something, because I know that's where the money is. And hopefully be working in a firm, making a good living, paying off my student loans. That's where I'll be in 10 years.
You think you're going to be in Arizona?
Hell no. I'll probably be in New York City. Either New York, I'll probably work in New York City after law school and then move to a firm in a less metropolitan area. I love Rye, New Hampshire. Like somewhere like that is where I would want to raise my kids and start a family.
What's something you would tell yourself when you just came to Exeter? From your perspective now. You're scared, you're nervous, you don't know what to expect. What would you say? One sentence.
Leave it all on the Harkness table.
All right. I know you asked me, you wanted to have an absurdly silly question.
Yes,
Here it is.
I'm ready.
Would you rather be a 5th century monk or an ancient Roman soldier?
I feel like an ancient Roman soldier is kind of like destined to die. But a 5th century monk,
Maybe you live with purpose.
maybe I live with purpose. But a 5th century monk lives with even more purpose. Their whole life is purpose. So yeah, probably the monk. What about you?
I would probably be the monk. I'm not trying to get stabbed in ancient Rome. But yeah, I mean, man, this has been a great conversation.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, it's been a pleasure. I can tell you're going to have a lot of success in your life. I see a bright future for you.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on the show. Thank you, everyone, for watching the second episode of the X Connect podcast with my friend Alex. And make sure to tune in for the next one.